Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was written and directed by James Gunn and tells a story about how the Guardians must go on one last adventure in order to save the life of one of their members. And I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was incredible. It had everything that all the other Guardians film has. It's its own contained story. It is emotionally heavy. The action was great. There's a great soundtrack, and the humor, as always, is still funny as hell. This isn't just the most emotionally investing film in the Guardians movies. This is the most emotionally investing MCU film because there's a lot of play here with mainly dealing with Rocket's backstory, Peter trying to accept the loss of the Gamora that he knew from Infinity War before, and dealing with there being a new Gamora from Endgame, as well as dealing with insecurities of the other Guardians in the group. Nebula, Mantis, and Drax trying to find their place in the new Guardians, as well as them establishing a base on Nowhere. There's just a lot at play here, and I thought that it needed to be this emotionally investing and heavy because it was the final film, because this is the send-off for most of these characters in the MCU, and I couldn't think of another way it could have been done. I thought this was the perfect way to say goodbye to our characters and these movies. I don't think there should be more Guardians of the Galaxy films because this was James Gunn's baby. I don't think anyone else could do it. There aren't a lot of negatives I have with this film. Something I would say though is that I wish we had a little more to play with in terms of Peter's arc, that being him running away from wanting to go back to Earth, as well as him trying to accept the loss of the Gamora that he knew and trying to accept the new Gamora from Avengers Endgame. Although I liked the outcome of Peter's arc, I just wish there was a little bit more to play with there. A little bit more of him coping with the loss of Gamora. But because we're thrust into this adventure, there's not a lot of time to deal with that coping. It's just, I wish there was a little bit more of it. I also wish there was a little bit more to do with Adam Warlock in this film. The action scenes that he has are really fun and really tense, but I just wish there was more to him as a character in certain scenes. I like the character overall, but there are certain moments where I thought he could have done a little bit more there, or he could have done something there. Come on. But it's not an issue, or that big of an issue with me, because I did like the character overall, and I liked his role in the movie. That being said, I loved everything else about the film. The humor is still great. Seeing this film twice now, I still laughed quite a bit at basically every joke that I laughed at from my first go around with the film. Mainly Drax throwing the ball at the little girl when they go to that planet. I thought that was still freaking hysterical. Drax is just golden in this film. He's funny as hell. He has some of the best lines in the movie. And just like with most of all the Guardians films, Drax is comedy gold. We even get the first use of the word fuck in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And I thought its use was fucking hysterical. And I find clips of it on YouTube because I think it's fucking hysterical. Much more like the first Guardians film, and unlike the second Guardians film, I feel that most of the humor, if not all the humor, doesn't stop scenes, but instead it rolls along into the scene and stops when it needs to. But whenever the humor is in the film, it's fucking hysterical. These films are all comedies essentially too, and the comedy is great. I laughed quite a bit, and the entire theater just erupted into laughter at certain moments. Even though this film is humorous as hell, it's still a little bit sad at times because we see Rocket's backstory, the experiments done on him as a little baby raccoon, and everything else that happens with those experiments. We see how much of a dick the villain, the High Evolutionary, can be. He's just this unhinged asshole who doesn't have a sympathetic backstory. He's just a dick. And that's what I loved about that character. But there's certain moments of him and Rocket in the past that is just, they were kind of tough to watch, especially on the second go around. Even though I knew what was going to happen, I was just like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Fuck, there it is. But even dealing with the rest of the Guardians' insecurities in the film, it is still the most emotionally heavy film, not only in the Guardians films, but the entirety of the MCU, mainly because We know this is the send off of our characters that we've come to know and love for the past almost decade. The first Guardians film came out in 2014. It's still kind of hard to accept that we're done with the Guardians films essentially. We're done with a majority, if not all of these characters. And I thought their send off, though, each individual character's send off was great. I love every character's arc that they go through, even though I wish certain characters' arcs were more strong, like Mantis, Drax, and Nebula. I really wish those arcs were more strong, but I was still satisfied with them. It's just that they weren't the main focus of the film. Rocket and Peter, mainly Rocket, was the main focus of the film. I was satisfied with everybody's arc, though, and it's still a very powerful, emotionally heavy film, even after a second watch. Just like the other Guardians films, the action. Ooh, the action is great in this film. There are so many tense scenes. There's so many violent scenes in this film. It has one of the best action scenes in the entirety of the MCU. I'm just going to say it's a hallway scene. It's incredible. And seeing it on the second watch, I was so excited because I was waiting for it. I told my girlfriend, "You're not ready for this." She says, "Oh, I think I am." "You're not." And when they played No Sleep Till Brooklyn, I was like, yeah, that was it. And this is the best film in 2023 that features Chris Pratt and the song No Sleep Till Brooklyn. It's weird that it happened twice, but what are you going to do? But yeah, all the action is great in this film. Everything with Adam Warlock, everything with the High Evolutionary, that scene with Peter and the octopus arms Groot, I thought that was really cool. Just all the action's great. Just go watch it. It's some of the best action in the MCU. The soundtrack, although not as strong as 1 and 2, I thought was still really damn good. They used Creep by Radiohead, No Sleep Till Brooklyn from the Beastie Boys. There's that song Since You've Been Gone by Cars, I think. I think that's the name. I love that song. I knew it well before this movie came out. And the last song they used in the film, it was perfect for the scene. It was perfect to send off these characters. And damn it, it's so hard to accept that it's done. It's hard to accept that these films are done, that most of these characters, if not all of these characters, are done. Their journeys are done. I love this movie. I thought it was incredible. I loved it my first time. I loved it on my second time. I don't have many issues with it. I think it's fantastic. It's an A- for me. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is an A- for me. It's fucking phenomenal. It's not my favorite of the Guardians trilogy, but I do think it is one of the best films in the MCU because of how emotionally investing it is, how fun the action is. There's so much more I could say. I can go on for hours about what I loved about this movie, but I think I'm just going to keep it at that. So, tell me what you thought about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you not like it? If you didn't like it, whatever. But I loved it. A lot of people are loving it. It's incredible. And tell me what you thought about the Guardians films in the comments below. I'm eager to see what people think about these films, even almost a decade after the first one came out. And I just want to say thank you, James Gunn. Thank you for bringing me some of my favorite films within recent memory. Thank you for this incredible joyride you've taken us on for the past 9 years. Just thank you, James. Thank you for these endearing characters. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the tears. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, tell me what you thought about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in the comments below. I'll be back with more enjoyable content like this. And yeah, bye.